Asiyam, Tanoya, Tanoan Sayam and Siaya, Sayoyaqua, Collection Nomen on Hot and Squalwin, Neath the Uns, Latash Bashalmain, Tanolachan Oslahan Ochameo, Skohomishos. Greetings to all of you, my dear respected friends and relatives. I have a good feeling in my heart to be with you today and for the week. I just introduced myself as Latash, Maurice Nahanee. I'm from the Squamish Nation. I'm an elder for the nation and a carrier of rituals and ceremonies. I'm very happy to be with you today, and especially for the purpose of our gathering. As a hunter and gatherer on the North Shore and in the Squamish Valley, I've seen many changes to the environment, and a lot of them have not been good, but we've been making great strides. The Squamish Howe Sound area has been declared a national historic area, and that means protection for the environment. So I'm very much concerned about our environment, and I'm glad that you are thinking of this as well. So I wish you very well in all your deliberations. Whenever we have a gathering, we remind ourselves that our ancestors gather with us. And so we should be mindful of those who went before us. And, when you take a drink of water, remember to salute those who dug the well. So good luck to each and every one of you. I'm proud of all of you. I'm going to sing a welcome song called Hope, Hope, Chase for the Squamish Nation. It is our chief's welcome song. Hope, hope, Chase, hey, a try. Hope, hope, Chase, hey, a try. Oh, hey, 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 a try. Hope, hope, Chase, hey, a try. Hope, hope, Chase, hey, a try. Oh, hey, 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 a try. Watch up, yo. Fight Latash. Take care, everyone. I hope to see you all again in good health. And have a good meeting and take care. Thank you.
Welcome to SPF21. It's so exciting to finally be here. I'm Andrew Robinson, and I work on sustainability strategy and engagement at GreenSpark Group. I wish to thank Squamish Nation Elder Latash, Maurice, Nahanee for that wonderful welcome. This virtual event is coming to you from the ancestral and unceded traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. If you are unsure of whose traditional land you're watching us from, you can visit native-land.ca to learn more, or indigenousworld.org for the United States. Those links should be popping up into the chat shortly, and please share with us in the chat where you're tuning in from. We're so excited to welcome you back to the Sustainable Production Forum. We can't believe this is already its 6th year. Big changes are happening, and you are part of that change. At GreenSpark Group, we are wholeheartedly committed to advancing sustainability in our industry. Every year, the progress, collaboration, and action that emerges from SPF is palpable, and this year is geared up to accelerate that trend. We would like to thank this year's lead partners, transformational partner, Real Green, Creative BC, and the Motion Picture Production Industry Association. Our presenting partner, MBS Equipment Company Canada. Our signature partners, CBC Radio-Canada and Telefilm Canada. And our first ever Green Marketplace lead sponsor, The Green Shot. SPF21 has gone virtual, which means we've created a dynamic platform for your benefit. Please take an opportunity to engage in the event feed, to post, or to take our poll, to say hello to our partners and our vendors, book one-on-one meetings, or grab a seat at a table in a networking lounge. You can also ask any questions during a session in the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of your screen. Not the chat though, the chat is for chatting. Don't forget to pop into our platform on Tuesday and Thursday as well, because those days are dedicated for the Green Marketplace and Community Hub, featuring our ambassador program and our virtual booths. If you're on Instagram or Twitter, join the social media conversation by following us at SPF_Vancouver and using the hashtag SPF21. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook under GreenSpark Group. So a bit of housekeeping. We're so happy to be able to offer many of our sessions this year with French translation. We've provided accessibility options, which you can see if you click the blue logo in the bottom right. To view ahead of time which sessions include French translation, please just check the program page and just click on the translation button inside the session to start French translation where this applies. Remember though, mute your main English stream if you do this. Questions can only be asked in the English in the chat, but these will be translated for French live. From any session, you can get back to the main area of the platform by clicking our logo in the top left corner, or leave the leave button under the stream. For tech support, in the main area of the platform along the top, just under the primary banner, you'll find our various platform areas. On the far right-hand side is the help desk, where you can find the help you need should that be necessary. And now, I'd like to invite you to join me in welcoming to the virtual stage the Honourable Stephen Guilbeault, Minister of Canadian Heritage, Prem Gill, CEO of Creative BC, and Irene Fan, VP Finance and Operations of MBSE, who will each provide opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Bonjour, hello everyone. J'aimerais d'abord souligner également que je me joins à vous d'Ottawa, sur le territoire traditionnel du peuple algonquin Anishinaabe. Cette année, le thème de votre forum nous invite à éliminer les obstacles. Vous vous en doutez, ça m'interpelle à la fois sur le plan personnel et professionnel. À titre de ministre du Patrimoine canadien, je suis fier de me joindre à mes collègues pour promouvoir l'inclusion, la diversité et la lutte contre les changements climatiques dans tous les domaines de nos vies ici au Canada. And personally, as an ecologist, I'm so pleased to be speaking to a group of activists and leaders. Your work to advance sustainable practices and your dedication to sharing your knowledge with others is truly inspiring. The cultural sector was amongst the hardest hit by the public health measures put in place at the beginning of the pandemic. When production shut down, our government provided some necessary support. And now, with the sector reopening and entering a period of recovery, our government is here for you too. Because you were there for Canadians during the darkest days of the pandemic, Canadians from coast to coast to coast found refuge and solace in TV shows, movies, and many other creative productions. Votre secteur a été une bouée de sauvetage pour un grand nombre d'entre nous, un oxygène nécessaire et je vous en remercie. Évidemment, la pandémie n'est pas encore derrière nous, mais il faut aussi se tourner vers l'avenir, vers la façon de mieux reconstruire. Dans tout ce qu'on entreprend aujourd'hui, il doit y avoir un engagement à bâtir un avenir plus durable et plus équitable. Bien entendu, ce que je dis n'est pas nouveau pour vous. Ça fait déjà de nombreuses années que plusieurs d'entre vous y travaillez et que votre secteur s'efforce de mesurer et d'atténuer les effets de vos productions sur l'environnement. From making good decisions about what materials to use to construct your sets, to using more energy-efficient equipment, to calculating the carbon footprint of individual productions, you've made great strides. And you've also created tools and resources that allow others in your industry to embed these good practices in their production. But there's so much more that can be done, and so much more that we can do to work together towards a common goal of protecting and preserving the planet. I would, however, like to highlight how being sustainable is much more than simply reducing our environmental impact. It is also about providing a quality and inclusive work environment to staff and colleagues. Real sustainability goes beyond the environmental impacts. It puts both people and planet at the center of decisions, which allow for the growing of a strong economy. This past August, I announced the creation of 2 ministerial consultative committees, one related to arts, culture, and heritage, and the other to sport, to help the department define its most helpful role in helping to support the green shift in these sectors. Canadian Heritage is committed to engaging with our sector partners as they continue to develop, adopt, or enhance their environmental practices. I would also like to encourage you all to continue to educate not only the people on set, but also your audiences about the need for climate action now. Many of you have already been doing so for a while, and I encourage you to pursue this as you have medium that connect more people than probably any other. Because we recognize that the cultural sectors can play an important role as agents of change in society at large, by speaking on about the need to do things differently, and by modeling that change in your production practices, your industry reaches large audiences directly in Canada and around the world. You have the opportunity to sensitize those audiences to the necessity of a cleaner, greener environment. And I think that people are ready to hear your message. One of the lessons from the pandemic will be that collectively, we are capable of changing and changing rapidly when the need to do so is great. We can mobilize and we can innovate when the status quo is no longer an option. It is imperative that we don't lose that innovative spirit because the existential threat posed by climate crisis requires the same collective focus and fervor if we are to prevail. Our government's innovative agenda also speaks directly to that need to change. It speaks to the vital role that innovation plays in helping to secure our collective future long-term growth and prosperity. Innovation is also a driver behind our strengthened climate action plan. We have a plan to build a healthy environment and healthy economy. It contains concrete actions that will help us exceed our 2030 Paris Agreement emissions reduction target, as well as the building blocks to get us to net zero by 2050. Notre plan climatique comprend des mesures qui vont aider à bâtir l'avantage industriel propre du Canada, des mesures qui facilitent et qui favorisent l'efficacité énergétique, des mesures pour offrir des modes de transport et de l'électricité propre et abordable. Des mesures également qui assurent que la pollution carbone n'est plus gratuite pour personne. And as a department, Canadian Heritage is not just talking the talk. We are committed to embedding sustainability in our day-to-day work and have signed on to the Green Government Strategy. The objective of the strategy is to help government departments transition to net zero, climate resilient, and green operations. Because we're all in this together. We will continue to work with our provincial and territorial colleagues, our international partners, our industry, and other stakeholders. No one government or industry can do it alone. We need to continue working together, communicating successes and best practices, celebrating victories, big and small, because every change no matter how small, counts. I encourage you to keep pursuing the important work of greening your sector, making sustainable choices, shining the light on the vital need to protect and preserve the well-being of our planet. And remember that our government is there working alongside each and every one of you. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations from Creative BC to the Sustainable Production Forum on a tremendous lineup of events and presenters. I am Prem Gill, CEO of Creative BC. I'm honored to speak to you from the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We are grateful for the work that has evolved for the vision of passionate people like Zena Harris, BC's leading film sustainability expert, and her team at the Green Spark Group. Here at Creative BC, we are deeply committed to the ongoing growth of Real Green, the seed initiative of our Provincial Film Commission, where it all started in 2006. Through the tireless devotion of Creative BC's Julie Bernard since its inception and more than 6 years of strategic vision and collaboration with Zena, Real Green has flourished in support and impact to become an industry-funded initiative, national in scope, with tremendous engagement of the Industry Association here in BC, MPIA, its members and collaborators. Real Green continues with a focus on service through this year's major advancement, the first ever fully dedicated in-house service resource within a film commission, Smiley Karana, the Real Green sustainability lead now working within the Provincial Film Commission of Creative BC. The Sustainable Production Forum is core to having achieved this momentum and support, giving us opportunity to reflect, check in, and absorb more knowledge. Creative BC as an organization serves to unite and champion the success of BC's diverse and distinctive creative sector, and the motion picture industry is primary to our mandate and responsibilities. We want to thank everyone that participates in this important industry event to create deeper ties and networks between the people taking responsibility and the change makers that inspire more and more to join and help. Most of all, we want to thank and congratulate Green Spark Group, Zena Harris, her staff, and volunteers. Thank you for bringing all of us together for dialogue and collaboration. It's because of deliberate events like this one that action is taken and things move in a better direction. The Sustainable Production Forum was born in BC and is truly leading the charge globally to advance environmental sustainability in the entertainment industry. We can't wait to get started this year and take our next steps together. Have a great forum.
Create our reality. We are also the authors of our culture. What an amazing opportunity that gives us to tell stories about innovation. Hello everyone, my name is Irene Fan and I am the VP of Finance and Operations at MBS. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Sustainable Production Forum. I live in Los Angeles, California, where like many of the regions where MBS operates, there is an increasing focus on addressing environmental and social challenges. This is not a distant problem, and at the same time, many of the solutions that are urgently needed are available. From a business perspective, it makes sense to explore and implement proven technologies and practices that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and minimize the waste of natural resources, such as water, which is a major concern for where I live in California. We know that the full cost of fossil fuels will only increase, which will have radical impacts on our global economy if clean energy alternatives are not widely available within this decade. While it is encouraging to see that governments, corporations, and financial institutions are collaborating to support innovation and adoption of environmental actions, much more still needs to be done. Based on research performed by Bill Gates, the economic damage caused by climate change will likely be as bad as having a COVID-sized pandemic every 10 years. We also know that we cannot put a price on the health and safety of people. If the COVID pandemic has taught us anything, it's that the cost of inaction is beyond economic. At MBS, we are clear about the role we play in the journey to be partners in sustainable production. As we continue to face serious challenges from resource scarcity to rising social inequality, we understand that the expectations of business and its role in society have changed. In addition to the improvements that we are currently making to our own operations, we invite our industry to collaborate with us on innovative solutions and widely share each other's approaches and results to accelerate our progress. As always, we've used our storytelling powers to influence countless innovations in culture, from gender equality to ethnic diversity, and pushing boundaries to make the world a much more beautiful place is part of who we are. That power to influence culture is needed now more than ever. I'd like to close by encouraging you all to have courageous conversations about the barriers preventing progress on sustainable production, because it is through sharing best ideas that we can ensure everyone's success. But also, let's not lose sight and hope of how far we've come and continue telling stories to change the world for the better. Thank you.
Thanks to each of you for setting the stage so well. Now, I'd like to turn our attention to Barbara Williams, Executive Vice President at CBC Radio-Canada. Barbara Williams joined Canada's national public broadcaster in May 2019 as Executive Vice President at CBC. Prior to that, she was Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Chorus Entertainment, Inc., where she oversaw all strategic and operational aspects of Chorus's content across conventional and specialty television, Nelvana, digital, and radio properties. She's also received many industry accolades, including being named one of Canada's most powerful women, Top 100 by the Women's Executive Network. She also received the Outstanding Achievement Award from Women in Film and Television, the Chair of Distinction Award from Women in Communications and Technology, and she was named one of the 20 most powerful women in global television by The Hollywood Reporter. CBC Radio-Canada has been active in the realm of sustainability recently with the launch of their strategy and working behind the scenes. Here with us now, Barbara Williams presents our opening keynote address, The Courage to Lead with Purpose.
Thanks, Andrew. That was a very kind introduction. Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. And depending on where you're watching from, I suppose I could say good morning or good afternoon, perhaps even good evening. It was such an honor for me to be asked to give this opening keynote address because climate change is something near and dear to my heart. Let me take you way back to a time long, long ago when I was a little kid. And you know, my mom, who was always, frankly, a bit ahead of her time, committed us to recycling. That was back in the day when you had to take the label off the tin, when you had to cut the other end off the tin, and then you had to jump up and down and squish the tin. It was always one of my favorite chores. And then ultimately you filled the boxes, and every couple of weeks you took a big drive to somewhere where there was a place that would take your recycling. So my point is, we started early. I started early in my life to understand that there was an important path to an environmental awareness. But now, fast forward 50 plus years to our federal election just a month ago, and a conversation I was having with my 25-year-old son, who was contemplating his future. And honestly, he's afraid. He's afraid of what to expect. He's afraid of how to plan his future when the planet is under such stress. My point, we've been at this a long time, and we need to pick up the pace. What is in front of us is both daunting and possible, the challenge of our lifetime. In fact, according to the UN, we have but 8 years to turn this around. Next week's COP26 conference in Glasgow is being described as the last best chance we've got. And that said, I do believe the sense of urgency is finally resonating with companies and organizations all over the world. And thankfully, I believe our kids will ensure that none of us take a pause along the way, because without profound change, these same kids, my kids, will undoubtedly have a very different challenge on their hands, and one that I pray they never have to face. In as much as my remarks today will focus specifically on what CBC English Services is doing to affect change with our carbon footprint, please know that my colleagues right across the whole company, French Services, IT and Engineering, as well as our corporate office, are also embracing this work. So I'm both excited and proud to tell you a bit about what CBC has done, is doing, and will be doing to make a difference with our carbon footprint. This past June, after months of cross-company collaboration, we unveiled our new environmental strategy we call Greening Our Story. And the operative word in that last sentence is new. And I make that point because CBC started down a greener path, over 13 years ago now. We were not that late to this party. And our new plan is all about building on the initiatives that we were already had in place and making them better and introducing new ones. But before I look ahead, let me first look back and tell you about the 3 questions that largely informed everything we've done thus far. First, we took a hard look at how much energy we were using. Second, how much waste were we generating? And thirdly, how much water were we using? We compared our performance to previous years and gave ourselves an annual scorecard to track. And we then showed our employees and the public how we were doing. Over a decade, CBC Radio-Canada published environmental performance reports of our efforts every year. We kept asking ourselves, did we do better than yesterday? Was it ambitious enough, fast enough? And while it was very much a looking backward approach to gauge progress, the scorecard tracking definitely had an impact. Some of those early initiatives included converting to LED lighting in many of our production studios, introducing hybrid models to our fleet of vehicles, and, wait for it, building beehives on our rooftops and gardens, which were all cared for by our employees. That initial work was focused exclusively on getting it right inside our buildings. And while those initiatives were successful, informative, and did make a difference, after 10 years, we wanted to push ourselves further, and it was time to set more ambitious goals. And we have. Beyond the internal facing work, we are now broadening the scope to include our partners. Simply put, every decision we now make about any aspect of our business, internally or externally, will be put through an environmental lens. This new 5-year strategy includes, but it is not limited to, renewing our entire fleet of vehicles to either hybrid or electric models, no single-use plastics by the end of 2022, installing water bottle refilling stations in Toronto and Montreal, recycling all of those disposable masks, giving obsolete or used furniture and equipment a second life versus ending up in a landfill site, replacing single-use batteries with rechargeable batteries in all of our mics on set. If we're going to get this right and truly make a difference, those minimum targets are absolutely critical to our success. And it's important for me to say, our aspiration is to not only reach, but exceed those targets within the 5-year window. Along the way, as we have in the past, we will be sharing our progress with Canadians, with the industry around the world, and of course, with our employees. Within this new strategy, we talk about 4 pillars. The first one is all about producing sustainably. And perhaps the most significant initiative I can point to is the Albert carbon calculator, first developed by the BBC. We've used it now on some of our internal productions to figure out where we were using the most carbon. And I can say we were the first media company in Canada to use it. So how does using the Albert calculator work? Or more to the point, how does it help you make more sustainable decisions? Well, frankly, just by reading the categories which Albert measures, such as the amount of waste with craft services or the amount of transportation that productions are using or overusing, you start to shift your thinking as to how to green every decision you make. And inevitably, one thing leads to another. A couple of other recent and maybe seemingly small but high-profile examples for CBC are how we used our Olympic and election sets more than once. 75% of the set, which was used this past summer in Tokyo, will be used again in Beijing for the upcoming Winter Olympic Games. And that was the case with the Canadian federal election in September following the 2019 election set. I know these examples may sound simple, obvious, and straightforward, but they all add up. They really do. And beyond the productions we produce, this work extends to the productions we license. And so I am very pleased to announce here today that in the coming months, the CBC will be introducing a requirement for all of our independent original productions that we license from independent producers to calculate their production's carbon footprint. This is a big new step. Needless to say, as these independent producers work to comply with this new requirement, we're going to be there to help them to figure it out by offering educational sessions for the whole industry on how to be more sustainable, how to use the carbon calculator, and just some basic green production tips. And then we will create an online space for easy and free access to other resources and tools with environmentally sustainable choices. The second pillar is something we refer to as a light footprint, where the focus is on operational aspects, energy consumption, water consumption, minimizing waste. And here's an example that is not something I thought I'd highlight only because admittedly I'm a little out of my depth talking about it, but it's so incredibly innovative. So here goes. For the broadcaster, how we store our technical and data systems is critical. In the fall of 2020, we announced the start of the greening of our data centers. The new green system harnesses that cold water that is at the bottom of Lake Ontario, draws that water to cool our data center, and then the warmed water is used to heat neighboring local businesses. I think that's pretty cool. Pillar 3 is scripting a new path. It's about embedding environmental thinking in our policies, encouraging teleworking opportunities, supporting carbon literacy, and perhaps most notably, focusing on travel. During the pandemic, I think it's fair to say we've realized that in many cases, like right now, virtual work can be successful, and not to mention that it saved millions of dollars by significantly reducing travel. Pillar 4, and this is a big one, shaping our narrative. As the minister alluded to, we have an opportunity here at CBC Radio-Canada to focus on content and informing Canadians about climate change. And I will tell you, based on an overwhelming audience feedback that CBC News received leading up to the federal election debates in September, in no uncertain terms, Canadians care deeply about this subject, more than in any other election campaign. And so with that in mind, let me call out some of the content that we hope it will make it easier for our audience to better understand the impact of human activity on the planet. We have an award-winning weekly radio series, podcast, and newsletter called What on Earth with Laura Lynch. We have 2 documentaries from the award-winning team at The Nature of Things, including Rebellion, about the youth movement for a livable planet, and Reef Rescue, about the impact of climate on underwater ecosystems. Our streaming service, CBC Gem, will bring together top documentaries in a special Our Changing Planet collection that explores the far-reaching effects of climate change here and abroad. And under that same banner, Our Changing Planet, CBC News will make climate change a significant focus of their journalism and a priority area of coverage across our newsrooms, programs, and digital platforms before and long after next week's United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. Our news service has designated climate as a national beat, and beyond that will soon create a dedicated international climate reporting team to increase the prominence of the coverage on our website and the CBC News app. As our editor-in-chief, Brodie Fenlon, recently said in his editor's blog, the understanding of the forces driving climate change constantly evolves, and so must our journalism and the choices we make daily. We will follow the science and share the facts that help to explain the key issues facing Canada and the world today and into the future. We will attempt to make the overwhelming more manageable and more understandable, and highlight the scientific and social changes that are making a difference. And as if saving the planet isn't enough to get someone's attention, there are some other significant knock-off benefits. In the long term, this will save us money. Although in the short term, we are committed to making the sizable investment to green our story. And we know this subject definitely acts as a lightning rod for engagement with employees. Just before our survey was launched, we did a survey, and 93% of employees who responded want CBC to be an environmental leader. And I'm guessing that many of you have seen a similar lean-in factor at your companies. The UN's report in August had labeled climate change a code red for humanity. We are almost 1.5 degrees hotter. And if we act decisively, as I said off the top, there is still time to limit climate change and save the planet. The key is to act decisively and act now. No more words, no more pondering, no more procrastinating. It really is showtime. Still, for many people, this can all seem too frightening, confusing, and paralyzing. But there is momentum, real momentum, and we have to harness it in order to not only do more, but go even faster while doing so. I truly believe that everything we do for climate change is unquestionably the most important work that transcends our professional and personal lives. And failure is simply not an option. Thank you for your attention. I'd be happy to stick around and take any questions you may have, at least the easy ones. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Barbara, for that really insightful look at leadership and everything that you're doing. I was really struck at how multifaceted the whole strategy and everything that you're doing, and the work of the journalism in front of normalizing the issues for your audiences as well, because there's so much to understand. But also just the combination of how you're addressing things that are a heavy lift, things that have a low barrier, things that have real but also symbolic wins for your staff, for the industry, and for the broader population, and where you can achieve those really significant reductions. So I'm curious, maybe as a first question is, have you noticed some kind of effect internally with the staff, and what kind of effect has this had on people within CBC Advisory Canada?
Yeah, for sure. I think on two ends. I think there were folks that actually didn't really understand that there was anything we can do. And when you start to really put practical things in their hands, whether it's like Gary's Fort, which is like one of the programs that our kids team does, was one of our first internal productions to do a carbon calculator. They were just blown away by what they could learn, and that it led them to do things differently. So it's giving people tangible things to feel that they're making a difference. And then it's encouraging our employees to realize that we have a role to play. We're a leader in this country. We're a leader in this sector, internally and externally. To your point, in terms of engaging our audiences, we have a role to play. And I think it makes people stand up and take that opportunity.
Fantastic. And here's a big question for you that's coming from the audience. It says, Canada is a big country. So how can we develop coast to coast to coast procedures to ensure that all productions are moving forward in sustainability?
Yeah, we are a huge country, and we do production everywhere, and we do it differently in lots of places too. Now, I would say from our point of view, because we license productions coast to coast to coast, we have an opportunity to start to embed in those production companies right across the country some new ways to think about carbon calculation, and some new ways to think about lowering your carbon footprint. But it's interesting. We went to put hybrid vehicles into the north. We have a significant presence in the north. We had to really think carefully about, were we sure that the hybrid vehicles today can be supported up there, and that they'll work when it's really, really. So we are actually putting important questions out there, I think, coast to coast to coast, as we recognize the different needs that different regions of the country have to move this forward. But we can set some standards across the production sector that we influence throughout the entire country.
Great, and maybe kind of building on that, but more broadly in terms of the impact you can have with outside of CBC. Have you worked with your counterparts in other markets or other companies, or even within other countries to date?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had a lot of contact with the BBC, which is where we learned about the Albert calculator. Actually, Prem Gill's been very helpful to us in learning all about that too. We are participating in the UN is building an international group of film and television production companies to see what we can learn from each other and influence the whole world. So we are looking for opportunities to be more than just ourselves. And certainly in Canada, as we look to help educate producers in Canada about how to produce more, with a better green approach, we are hoping that all the broadcasters in Canada will step up and encourage all the independent producers that they're working with to do the same. So I think we're really looking to be a leader both domestically and where we can internationally.
Fantastic. And I'm also curious, as you were undergoing the process or since you've launched the strategy, what were some of the surprises for you, either internally or in terms of how it was reacted to externally?
I think everybody is surprised initially at how much we do waste. If you've ever been to a set and you've been to craft services and you've looked at the incredible spread of food, which is always fantastic, and then you've looked at how much has been thrown out, and you've looked at how much plastic got used in serving it and how much of that was thrown out, and you've looked at how many different meat options maybe were offered in that meal, and did there need to be that much meat served? When you start to look at it and measure it and write it down, you start to realize there are a lot of simple things that if we all did them could make a difference. And I think that's often the surprise. People don't really think about how much they are wasting and how much they can change some little things that truly will make a difference.
So is the secret coming the direction from above, or is the secret simply having that information, that measuring and monitoring and presenting that information in front of people that makes them realize that there is an impact and there's an opportunity to.
I think what your point is exactly right, Andrew. There's that expression, what gets measured gets done. I think there's enormous value in simply starting to measure and know what is your carbon footprint. From there, you can go, I wonder if I could reduce it and how hard that would be and what might I have to do. But step one is just to know what even is your carbon footprint. So we are calculating that as a company, what the whole CBC Radio Canada's carbon footprint is. Each production will know what theirs is. Bit by bit, we are starting to measure the impact we're having today. And you have to know where you're at in order to make a significant change. So measuring it is absolutely key, and we're doing it throughout the whole organization.
That's fantastic. We've just got a couple of minutes left, so maybe this will be the last question that we have for you today. Are you aware of any funding streams specifically designated for projects with a strong focus on sustainability within our industry?
That's a really good question. And I don't know that I am. One of your other guests might be aware of it. I mean, we certainly recognize that it comes with some cost. At the beginning, we actually think in the end it'll save money for a lot of productions and save money for us as an organization too. But at the beginning, there may be some need to invest. Invest in the LED lighting, which down the road pays off. Invest in different kinds of vehicles for all the transportation the productions use. And so upfront cost, but down the road savings. We have to invest in the education. We know that as we ask independent producers to step in and fulfill this requirement to measure their own carbon footprint, that we need to hire somebody at the CBC to just be their expert and help them learn how to do it. So there are upfront investments that we're making and we know we need to make, but it's a great question about whether there's other dedicated funding streams to support this work. Because if there aren't, maybe there should be.
To be continued. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for the strategy and everything that you're doing. And thank you in particular for your commitment to transparency as well, because we can learn from that, and having the courage to acknowledge what's gone right and what still needs some work is something that we all need to hear, because it's only collectively that we can move ahead and learn from where the ease is and where some pain points are, provide some milestones and guidance to all of us within the industry. So
thank you. My pleasure. It was great to be here with you all today. Have a great forum. Thank you, Barbara. All the best. And so now it's time to leave this room. The next session will start in about 15 minutes, but I encourage you to go to the event feed to participate in our poll or to see who else is there and maybe see who you can connect with. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes.